Loading. Welcome to Access the Animus.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new video here on Access the Animus. By popular demand after our last video dedicated to the prophecies from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, today we're going to have a look at the 37 prophecies pronounced by two characters in Assassin's Creed Origins. As a matter of fact, as we mentioned in our video dedicated to the Peak of Prophecy in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Origins provides not one but two side characters sharing some cryptic prophecies and insight on the future. One of them is an oracle of Apollo called Phoebe from the main game, while the second one is a dream interpreter called Besa, or the Master of the Secret Things, that appeared in the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC. In the video, we're going to share the potential interpretations of these prophecies, at least where we or the community were able to come up with them, and lastly, we're going to show you some of the prophecies we were not able to interpret, so maybe you can help us with them. If you appreciate the video, please consider liking it, subscribing to our channel, and turning the notifications on so you don't miss any of our future updates. And with that out of the way, let's jump right in. These are all the prophecies from Assassin's Creed Origins. Let's start with the prophecies by Besa, the Master of the Secret Things, who can be found in Thebes in the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC of Assassin's Creed Origins. We're going to try and go one by one with them, with the support of a superb thread by Reddit user St. Perkele, which you can find in the description.
You have come to consult with the Master of Secret Things? I will tell you what I have seen as I slumber. Men seeking wisdom, they hide in the temple of the 10th son of David. They will pit themselves against the hidden ones.
This is somewhat of an easy one. Here we are talking about the Assassins versus Templars conflict, especially the part shown in the first Assassin's Creed game. In fact, the 10th son of David is Solomon, so the temple of the 10th son of David is the Solomon Temple, the one featured at the beginning of Assassin's Creed 1, where the Templars were looking for an apple of Eden, here described as men seeking wisdom.
I see men standing upon the plain of Khonsu. They claim the shifting sands for a new order of the ages.
This one is a reference to the man landing on the moon in 1969. In fact, Khonsu is the Egyptian god of the moon, so the men standing upon the plain of Khonsu would be the men who landed on the moon. The mention of these men claiming the shifting sands for a new order of the ages is a reference both to the United States of America, who claimed the first landing on the moon, as the Latin for new order of the ages, Novus Ordo Seclorum, is literally placed on the Great Seal of the United States, but also to the Templars within the Assassin's Creed lore, as they actually pulled the strings behind the landing on the moon in order to acquire an apple of Eden placed on a satellite, and, well, the concept of the New World Order is basically their ultimate goal.
Chittering and swarming from the Stygian waters, bringers of death, but Alexander's namesake will halt their tide.
This is, according to St. Perkele, a reference to the bubonic plague. As a matter of fact, the chittering and swarming by the bringers of death would be a reference to the rats, the vectors and amplifiers of the plague, while Alexander's namesake, halting their tide, would be a reference to Alexandre Yersin, the physician and bacteriologist remembered as the co-discoverer of the bacillus responsible for the bubonic plague.
One will come from the land of the gazelle, two fathers born of earth and air. Like Osiris, he will die and live again, enshrouded in ancients.
This is a reference to Jesus Christ. In fact, Land of the Gazelle, or Eretz Hasvi, sorry for the pronunciation there, is one of the nicknames for the land of Israel, while the two fathers born of earth and air are a reference to Joseph and God in the Christian religion. Like Osiris, he will die and live again, another central part of the Christian religion, while the mention of enshrouded in ancients is both a reference to how Jesus' body was wrapped up in a shroud within the Christian religion, but also to the Assassin's Creed lore, as within it, after his crucifixion, Jesus' body was wrapped in a shroud of Eden, which did not make him come back to life.
The wisdom of Thoth will thread throughout the world on the silk of spiders.
Thoth was considered the god of wisdom, writing, science, and art, among other things. So the wisdom of Thoth equals knowledge, basically, while the silk of spiders, being thread, can otherwise be known as a web, or the web, making it so that knowledge would be spread on the web, which is a direct reference to the internet.
Like Arctus, we become others, decide their fates, as does the creator Amun. Choices, paths, they are puppets in our play.
This one looks like a reference to the Animus within the Assassin's Creed lore. In fact, that's the tool that in-game characters use to quote-unquote become other characters, decide their fates, now also making choices and following narrative paths, literally making them puppets in their play. Then again, as mentioned by Saint Perkele, this might also refer to video games in general. After all, isn't the Animus a proxy of a video game?
In the land of the bulls captive, they will rear a fearsome beast. It will shake the land on its axis, rain down fire from the sky.
This one is a bit tricky. The mention of the axis and of fire raining down from the sky is likely a reference to World War II. Along with that, the land of the bull corresponds to Italy, as mentioned by our team member Hephaestus, as the word Italy literally means land of the calf or land of the bull. Thus, in this case, we believe the land of the bull's captive is a reference to Germany, both because the territory of Germany had been controlled by the Roman Empire, and also because Germany during World War II under Hitler idealized the Holy Roman Empire, becoming its captive in a way. Thus, this prophecy could be a reference to Nazi Germany and possibly Hitler, the fearsome beast that would shake the land through the Axis, as in the Axis Alliance, raining fire as in dropping bombs from the sky.
Osiris in the statue. He regards me with his ageless eyes and sees everything. Stronger, faster, more knowing. Does he mean to harm us?
This is complicated, as we don't have a clear answer, although we believe this should hint to robots or any mechanical automata because of the reference to ageless eyes and to this quote-unquote statue being stronger, faster, and more knowing than humans.
Amun dissolves the ordered world and returns us to the waters of chaos. Only the Creator will remain, and so shall we be resurrected.
This again is not very easy to interpret, but dissolving the ordered world and returning to chaos might be a reference to the Toba catastrophe annihilating most life on Earth and the humans and Isu having to start anew. Otherwise, as mentioned by Saint Perkele, this could be a reference to one of the two alternatives that Desmond could pick at the end of Assassin's Creed 3, with the second disaster wiping out most humans on Earth and Desmond being a potential leader that would rebuild humanity.
The dead need us to listen. I could hear them calling when I put my face to the ground.
This could be another reference to the Animus machine, which allows to relive the lives of the dead and thus would allow modern-day characters to listen to them in a way. What would putting my face to the ground mean though? Any thoughts?
I saw you standing under a shining moon. You will find forgiveness at the end of your path. You plunged into the icy waters. The absolution you seek, it will come.
These two seem to be both referred to Bayek, as Besa is talking directly to him. In both prophecies, he tells him that he will be forgiven and absolved at the end of his path, which could be a reference to what we already see in the main game, where in a dream sequence Bayek finds his son Khemu in the afterlife, in the Field of Reeds, and actually seems to be forgiven by him and absolved from the guilt of having killed him. The second part of the prophecies from Assassin's Creed Origins comes from Phoebe, the Oracle of Apollo that can be found in the Green Mountains area of the Kyrenaika region. She allegedly received these prophecies from Apollo himself, which might or might not have been part of a wider First Civilization quest that never came to be. In any case, Phoebe tells Bayek 25 prophecies, so considering how many of them we have here, we're going to try and have a quick fire round for the ones about Bayek and the ones about external topics, this time with the support of the research by the Assassin's Creed Wiki, and lastly we showcase the ones we still aren't able to interpret. Also, listen up, you might find a familiar actor giving the voice to the Oracle of Apollo.
When the Aten rises, those who bore the double crown will walk.
The double crown is a reference to the double crown worn by rulers in ancient Egypt, symbolizing they ruled both the Upper and Lower Egypt, while the Aten, that is the disk of the sun, was also a symbol oftentimes associated with royalty in Egypt.
He walks in splendor in the footsteps of the Therans, a god made flesh.
This is peculiar because Thera, the older name of modern-day Santorini, is the Greek island sitting upon the Atlantis vault. This could be a reference to Pythagoras walking in front of the Atlantis repository with a godly stature holding the staff of Hermes Trismegistus.
A new peace will come. Seek out the triumvirate, the healer, the architect, the judge.
This is a reference to the so-called Cyrene Triumvirate, which was, quoting the Assassin's Creed Wiki, an arrangement formed by the Roman architect Vitruvius, the Greek magistrate of Cyrene Diocles, and the healer Praxilla in the Kyrenaika region in Assassin's Creed Origins.
The healer's staff is not what it seems. The viper uncoiled lies in whispers.
This should be another reference to the same story arc involving the Cyrene Triumvirate, where an enemy healer called Melita tortures civilians in a place called the Shrine of Whispers. One could not ignore though how Assassin's Creed Odyssey did feature a healer's staff whose voice inside uncoiled lies, but then again, it's unlikely that had already been planned at the time of Origin's development.
The she-wolf comes from the waters, but the vultures will feast upon the jackal's marrow.
This could be a reference to Aya. The vultures feasting upon the jackal's marrow are a reference to the death of Lucius Septimius, the member of the Order of the Ancients known as the Jackal that was killed by Aya in Rome. Also, Aya did come from the sea in order to reach Rome, kill Lucius Septimius and then Caesar.
Whether by sea or between the sheets, the Black Land is conquered.
The Egyptians called their country Kemet, again sorry for the pronunciation, which literally means the Black Land. Thus, this is a reference to Egypt being conquered both through the invasions from the sea and also through the political intrigue and Caesar's relationship with Cleopatra.
He who was born of the Thunderbolt holds the relic of the Elder Ones.
This is a reference to Alexander the Great, who was said to be Zeus's son and who did actually hold the Staff of Eden, which, in our opinion, allowed him to enter the Isu Vault of Siwa along with an Apple of Eden too.
The Macedon Rex will sink in the crocodile's tears.
Another one about Alexander the Great, the Macedon king. The mention of him weeping crocodile's tears could be a reference to him being famous for weeping after seeing the breadth of his domain, as there were no more words to conquer.
Heed the Ides of March.
That's not even a cryptic sentence, as the oracle here is basically mentioning the famous date of the death of Julius Caesar.
Trust the trickster. His whiskers do not lie.
As mentioned on the Assassin's Creed Wiki, this is a reference to Sminthos, a character that can be found in the Kyrenaika area of the game who was framed for a murder he did not commit. His alias was the Mouse, hence the reference to the whiskers.
What you seek is Legion.
This is a reference to Brutus Severus, one of Bayek's minor targets in the game, who was the centurion of the Roman legion positioned in the Kyrenaika region of the game.
The hog wallows in the mud. Stuff an apple in his mouth, Eagle.
Eagle is the name through which the oracle calls Bayek, and this could be a reference to him killing the priest Medunamon literally by hitting his face with the Apple of Eden.
The eaglet waits for you in the fields of your forebearers.
If Bayek is the eagle, the eaglet is a reference to his son Khemu and how he is waiting for him in the field of reeds that is in the afterlife.
If the eagle spies the true Ram, the descendants of Ra will fall.
Another sentence directly aimed at Bayek, this time it potentially refers to the character known as the Son of Ra, the only character in the game to have a memory corridor kill room while being unrelated to the main story.
You walk a path in the shadow of we that came before.
A direct reference to the first civilization and how Bayek's path was interwoven with that of the Isu through their pieces of Eden and their vaults.
The Hidden One will greet you, but not yet. Not yet.
Here, the Hidden One is actually one of the names of Amun, the patron deity of the Egyptian gods' pantheon. Thus, this should mean that the oracle, by the time Bayek meets her, is telling him he is not going to die soon.
Sanguine is the key that unlocks the door.
That's a reference to how many of the doors and pedestals in the Assassin's Creed franchise are activated through the DNA of their users, hence why their key is sanguine.
Your soul is shrouded, trapped in the Shadowlands between being and oblivion.
This is potentially another reference to the Animus, both because Animus does mean soul, and also because Bayek's story would basically be forgotten had it not been brought to life again through the Animus. And lastly, here are the other prophecies by the Oracle of Apollo that we weren't able to interpret.
Paris will have his Helen, no matter the cost. Orpheus and Eurydice will be torn asunder. Do not look back. There is no certainty, Eagle. You may as well hold a wolf by the ears. Beware the three-headed Hydra, for he will devour the asp. More terrible men will arise in his place. Then you will know the true meaning of tyranny. An empire will arise from his ashes. A death among kings will set ablaze the house of Amun.
And that was it for today's video. Did you remember these prophecies? Do you agree with our interpretation, or do you have some different ideas? And what about these final ones? What are your opinions about them? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.